What we are saying is that our research shows that if you're deficient in vitamin D or deficient in vitamin K2, you have an increased risk of catching COVID, of susceptibility, and you have an increased risk of having a severe outcome if you're deficient in both of those nutrients. So our understanding is really about how the nutrition that we have on board affects our ability to defend ourselves against this virus. Vitamin K2 is one of two vitamins in the vitamin K family. There's vitamin K1 and vitamin K2. Both are nutrients that are involved in the creation of coagulation factors, or coagulating, helping to coagulate our blood. Vitamin K1 specifically resides in the liver, and it's involved in the creation of factors which help to protect our liver and our blood from coagulation. Vitamin K2 works outside of the liver and is involved in cardiovascular health and specifically bone health. K2 is the nutrient that helps our body to manage calcium levels and place calcium into our bones and not into our soft tissues. So K2 works hand in hand with D in an overall sense to manage calcium in support of overall bone health and cardiovascular health. It also plays a role in terms of immune health. There are a whole variety of reasons to supplement with vitamin D and vitamin K2, as well as other nutritional supplements. And it goes beyond just immune health and the COVID pandemic. The reality is that this is not the first pandemic that we're going to face. It's probably one of several. COVID is not going away. So even if you are vaccinated, the variants or new versions of COVID may come with upcoming cold and flu seasons. And so we need to maintain a strong and healthy immune system. But beyond that, vitamin D and vitamin K2 are also critically important in terms of bone health, cardiovascular health, and general health in terms of lifetime fitness and lifetime optimization of our wellness. So I recommend that everyone be supplementing with these nutrients, not just in terms of protecting their immune system and supporting their immune system during COVID, but also in terms of just general health and wellness. When you read the new book by Dr. McComsey and I, Simplifying the COVID Puzzle, you're going to learn a few things. The first thing you're going to learn is about your immune system and the critical role that your immune system plays in terms of protecting you from viruses like COVID-2. You're also going to learn about vitamin D and vitamin K2 in terms of their synergistic relationship and the benefits that they provide in terms of helping to diminish the inflammatory response in COVID and helping the body to maintain its health and function if you do get the infection. The other thing that the book talks about is general wellness and the things that we can do every day to maintain our health and wellness. Simple lifestyle measures that can make an enormous difference, not just in terms of nutritional supplementation, but in terms of lifestyle. And we've tried to create a well-rounded book that gives people an understanding of how they can have a direct and specific effect on their health on a daily basis with just a few simple measures.
The book that I wrote on D3 and K2 and what they do in COVID really was meant to educate people, not to say, don't worry about COVID, that's all you have to do. And not to say that wait till you get COVID and then take these supplements. So I laid in the book actually the case for why it's important to be prepared for COVID and be healthy before you get COVID, if you are to get it. So the idea is living a healthy lifestyle. So what we did is here in Cleveland, Ohio, we took a group of patients who presented to us with COVID, and we measured vitamin K2 levels. You measure it indirectly through a known biomarker, as well as vitamin D status. And what we found was that time point where they presented with the COVID infection, their vitamin D and or vitamin K status, so both of them independently, were associated with how well they did In other words, if people had low vitamin K status at the time they got COVID or poor vitamin D status at that time, they were way more likely to end up in the intensive care unit on a breathing machine or dying. So people would say, well, probably they were the sicker populations, right? Population with a lot of comorbidities. We looked at that. We adjusted for body mass index, for age, for sex, for hypertension, heart disease, any of the known risk factors for severe COVID outcome, we adjusted for. And what we found was it doesn't matter what you adjust for, those two factors, having optimal vitamin D status, optimal K status, seem to be associated with better outcome from COVID. In terms of COVID, yeah, I think the field now is changed a little bit in COVID. We're still worried about acute COVID when people get sick, but there is a lot of interest in what happened after COVID. So tell you what I mean by that. You probably heard about something called long haulers or post-COVID. About a third of people who recover from COVID, even those who had mild disease, even there are some cases asymptomatic. So they test positive for COVID, but they never had symptoms, hardly felt anything. Third of people with COVID will end up months later continuing to have new symptoms. There are things that are very troubling surfacing. People are having post-COVID new onset diabetes, new onset thyroid disease. So there's a lot of government actually funding coming to try to help us elucidate what's happening post-COVID. What does that virus do that seems to affect every organ in our body? And I don't mean the first 2 weeks of the illness. I mean months and months after the illness. So the long haulers, this is a whole new area of research. And I'm doing a study now looking to see if vitamin K and D may help even some of the long hauler symptoms. If there is an association, and you can say why would they do it? Again, through inflammation, because there are some data showing that long haulers have a lot of systemic inflammation in their blood.